So by no means an expert, but today I'm just here to share some of my learnings. As I said, I started working with AI in 2017 when I was working with the Chinese, who I would argue are light years ahead of us in AI. The first thing I ever did, I launched the first car that was driven and piloted by the AI on a smartphone. The headline for that was someone in marketing at Huawei is a genius or has either lost their mind. Um, it went on, we flew 250 media in from all over the world and let them ride in the first car ever piloted by a smartphone. It was an incredible success. I then went on to get AI to finish Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. I partnered with an Emmy Award winner composer, and for the first time in over 100 years, we finished a new version of Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. We then partnered with a designer from China to create the first fashion show and fashion range completed in partnership with the designer, all created by AI. And we launched it at an AI, the first ever AI fashion show in Milan. We went on to create the first AI app that translated written books, children's books, into sign language. There's 62 million deaf children in the world, and many of them struggle to learn to read and write. They struggle to engage with their parents, and most of them miss out on the gift that is bedtime stories. We changed that with the first app ever being able to translate a bedtime story into an avatar so parents could read them a bedtime story, all with AI. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about that today because I'm going to talk about more practical applications. But I think the point is AI gives us an opportunity to change things dramatically. And my focus today is drawing a parallel to electricity. When electricity was introduced, arguably the last huge, truly transformational technology before the internet, it wasn't very effective. And it wasn't very effective because what people did is they tried to replace the steam engine which powered the entire factory. That huge engine was connected to every part of the factory by pulleys and belts. And so what did they do? They just dropped an electric engine in the place of the steam engine. And guess what? Nothing really changed. It wasn't until much later that people started to realize, actually, we have to completely redesign the factory. And now that we have these smaller electric engines, we can put engines where they're needed. We can get rid of the current design and we can completely rethink the model. And that is what we need to do with AI. It's not about plugging it into our existing ways of working. It's about completely rethinking our approach based on what it makes possible. And to do that, we have to rethink the decision engine that operates in most of our companies, especially around the three types of capital: financial capital, human capital, and probably most important, our attention capital. Because a lot of what I see in the work I do today, we're still allocating it based on the steam age. We haven't made the transition to really take advantage of it based on AI. And what is imperative is that we completely rebuild and rethink the way we do things. And I'm going to give you a couple of live case study examples of this. So this one is a really cool young company from India. It's Wizard AI. And they have rebuilt the factory for account-based marketing. Now, I'm not sure who we have in the room. ABM is account-based marketing. It's a marketing motion we use in highly complex B2B or enterprise purchasing where you need to influence big purchasing teams over a long period of time to get the sale. The data says 87% of people in marketing who use that and in sales say it is more effective than any other motion. Yet 59% feel like they're being forced to execute without the means. Because to execute ABM in the old factory, in the steam factory, required lots of capital, lots of attention capital, lots of human capital, and it required considerable amounts of financial capital to make that work. And getting your tech stack lined up, getting the processes lined up, getting marketing lined up, getting sales lined up, getting operations lined up, getting finance lined up was really quite difficult. Wizard AI have completely built a new factory. Agents will now pull together all your intent signals, do auto enrichment, multi-channel outreach. Everything's done in natural language. 2 days to onboard and 1 hour a week for one person to oversee the factory. Average cost per SQL for their clients when they start after 6 weeks is a dramatic reduction. Same ideology, completely different factory. Now, the question is for all of us, where does that freed up capital go? Where do we put the freed up attention capital? 1 hour a week to oversee that factory. Where do we put all the other financial capital and human capital that we've just freed out? Do we invest it back in growth or do we bank it as the bottom line? I think banking it is the single biggest mistake we could possibly make right now. Here's another example. I love this one. This is a company based in the US, Ace Workflows. Now they do things a bit differently. They work for companies who just want to put lots of little motors in the existing factory. People who aren't ready to completely rebuild, but know they can get some benefit by making the existing factory much more effective. And they basically just automate the workflows with AI. When they worked with Ryan Reynolds' agency, 120 hours returned to their creative teams to work on high quality creative. Tishman Speyer, a huge real estate company, again, 8,400 hours saved, 95% increase in processing speed. And in 1 year alone, they've deployed over 500 workflows. They've helped 150 organizations, and the payback period is within 3 to 5 weeks. It's incredible. And their model is so simple. This is not transformation. This is just putting more motors in different parts of the factory to get those benefits. And again, what are we going to do with what this frees up? That's freeing up a lot of attention capital. It's freeing up human capital. Where do we put that? But interestingly, when I talked to the founder, Tim, and Tim works with lots of the companies I work with, the single biggest impediment to any of this is the people in the company. It's the people in the company who aren't willing to let go, who aren't willing to change, who aren't willing to challenge the governments, who aren't willing to take some risks. And that's also been my experience. So again, another really nice example of this at work. So who's going to rebuild the factory? Do we need a chief AI officer to rebuild the factory? And I work with a number of companies trying to do this. And here's the problem I see all the time. Leadership team today have no time to rebuild the factory. They've got no capacity. They're already in back-to-back meetings. They can't keep up with Slack. They're spending hours building presentations. They're spending endless hours building reports. They'd love to change it, but no one has the time to build the factory. Lots of them have got the tools, but they're not even using them because people have had no training. Half of the people don't know what they're allowed to put in AI and what they're not allowed to put in AI. Some are scared shitless because they might put company confidential information in there and it might leak and no one can get a really clear policy. And this just causes huge problems. And so it means we've got a lack of AI adoption. But here's the thing, I don't think we need a chief AI officer. I think we need to change the way we enable people and we need to find really curious champions. And we need to start small. And I'm going to give you two really kind of two examples that are at absolute opposite ends of the spectrum. This is one for a company I recently worked with. Um, they are a SaaS company. They do about almost $1 billion a year, operate internationally. Their AI adoption in marketing was almost zero. It was astounding that they had that. They had AI tools. No one was really using them. Now, in this case, I was the catalyst. I was the curious one. I came in, I got them all Claude Enterprise licenses. I built a business case to get IT to sign it off because IT wouldn't sign it off because their budgets were already maxed. Somebody had to pay for the extra licenses. So we built a budget by simply canceling 3 agency contracts. But within 2 weeks, the leadership team, just using Claude, so simple, had automated all their email triage. Claude was handling all their Slacks. It was handling their calendar. All their presentations were being done in Claude. Most of their reporting was being done in Claude. They were already saving 50% of their time in a day. And then we decided to automate the agency, but we built a completely new model. We built an AI studio. We moved to 80% of the marketing that the previous studio was doing was now being done self-service. A marketer would jump in Claude. Claude would guide them through a brief. Claude would create the creative, drop it in Canva, which was our control mechanism, and then we'd have N8N or whatever else was needed to take it to the other systems. 80% moved to direct self-service. Just with Claude Desktop. So simple. But you needed a catalyst. Now, in that, what is that company doing now? Now they're away. They have an appetite for it. They see it. They have a business case. They're away, and the transformation is incredible. Every day they're looking at more and more opportunities of what they can do differently. Another example, I'm now working with a different company in Amsterdam. This company is at the other end of the spectrum. They've given unfiltered access to any model you want. You choose your model. You can take Claude, you can take Gemini, you can take Perplexity, you can take Manus, you can take Kimi. You choose your model. No business case. Only one KPI. 80% adoption and usage of everybody in the company in the next 12 months. I think that's amazing. Amazing. And what are they training their people in? They're training their people in how to build AI agents. In fact, they've built an AI agent builder that sits on top of all those models. Amazing. They have completely rebuilt the factory. So my point here is pretty simple. Start small. It doesn't have to be that last example. Find a curious champion. Enable them. Give them the licenses. Give them the freedom. Give them the clarity of what they can and can't do, and set them free. But find the curious ones who are going to work night and day because they're passionate about it. They're the ones that are going to do some amazing thing. And the snowball effect is incredible. Once people start to see it, start to understand it, you build an incredible momentum. As I said, 9 times out of 10, the problem is the company. I can't tell you how many ridiculous conversations I've had with finance and with IT saying, yeah, but Andrew, what about the increased cost? Yeah, but what about the increased saving in the short and long term? Yes, but how are we going to manage the increased token use? That's your problem. Fix it. The benefits are so strong. What about the legal risk? This is a beautiful case study. I had with the AI studio, legal were terrified. So I spent 3 weeks with legal codifying what they do and said, what if I could take away 80% of the marketing requests that come to you for really basic reviews? What if I could get an AI trained like you to do it and filter it for you? Legal changed immediately. Now, legal are one of the most active users building more and more of those use cases. So get the company out of the way, enable people, and you'll be amazed what happens. And then my personal opinion is build from scratch. Don't try and put new little engines in the existing factory, but instead rip the belts out completely and build yourself new factories. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That was brilliant. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions for you afterwards. Again, while Al hands over, quick question from me. Oh, there's so many. How would you say you would get companies to accept the risks that come with AI enablement?
Yeah, it's a great question. The last example is the one I would do. Deeply engage with the people who control the risk and help them see the benefit and help them discover the new ways of controlling the risk. I'll give you another example with that AI studio. Legal were terrified about AI being able to create its own photography, its own imagery because of usage rights and IP theft, etc. So the very first step, our AI for our creative studio could only use pre-approved photography in Canva. Canva is a lovely control mechanism. The AI was programmed as a first step. Any photography, you are not allowed to build your own. You're only allowed to go in and use what we have approved in the set inside Canva. Legal were happy. We got started, we got a business case. Now we're in the next phase. How can we let AI be more creative and still have some guardrails? So again, start small, find some simple controls and get them really involved. And then once they start to experience it, the switch happens and they start to lean into it.